Get those goosebumps to you as well. And with that, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is an international educator and an educational technology consultant. He is currently based in Bangkok, and he is going to be speaking about community trumps content. Please welcome Jeff Utecht.
All right, this thing's on. That's good. I need to thank the committee. There are 3 rules to presenting. 1, never follow somebody younger than you. Thank you, Adora and Shin. 2, never be the first speaker after lunch, because everybody's got lunch belly and just wants to take a nap. And number 3, never follow somebody that's a better presenter than you. Thank you, Sir Ken Robinson. So I just want to thank the committee for putting me in this spot right here, because no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to match that. Yeah, rise with the occasion. That's the way it goes. I've watched this video a couple times, actually, and I was thinking earlier today, I was thinking, this tread softly on dreams is an interesting idea, because I was thinking about this 8-year-old girl that when we lived in Saudi Arabia, my wife and I, she was sitting watching a movie with her mom, and the word prostitute came on TV, or came on the movie. And so she turns to her mom and she says, "Mom, what's a prostitute?" And so her mom thinks for a second and says, "Well, honey, it's somebody who gets paid to go on dates with somebody else." And she was like, "Okay." And she goes to bed, and the next day, she comes to her mom again, and she's like, "Well, how much do they get paid?" And I think education is a lot like that, right? We have to tread softly on dreams, but you have to know what dreams to tread softly on. I think he's right that there is a revolution coming. And I think that revolution is coming, and it's going to come from our students, because revolution comes from the people that are being suppressed. And I believe our students are being suppressed today. And I do believe that revolution is going to come in Facebook. You know that, right? I mean, if kids are going to revolt against us, it's going to happen in Facebook. They're all there. And at some point, somebody's going to create a group called Let's Take Back Education. In fact, the whole reason why I have a Facebook account is so that one of my friends will let me know that I don't need to go to work anymore because the kids have taken back education. So I suggest everybody get a Facebook account, just so you know when kids decide that that's going to happen. And I think our kids today, we really have to think about the students that are in our school and what they've grown up with and how times have changed so fast. I was teaching in Shanghai. I was teaching an 8th grade technology class, 14-year-old kids, and we were talking about the history of computers. And we were talking about that the personal computer came out in 1977. Yet the World Wide Web, as we know it today, was not created until 1991. And a girl, 3 rows to the back on my right-hand side, gets this astonished look on her face and then slowly raises her hand and says, "What did you do on a computer without the internet?" And I had to think about it. I had to stop and think, what did we do? What was it? We played Oregon Trail, right? That's what we did. Do you remember the little green guy, right? And we used to go, and you had the 5.5-inch floppy disks that you had to turn over halfway through the game. Do you remember that? And I remember that we would go in before school, play, and we would, of course, get as many bullets as we could and go out and shoot. And then 10 minutes before the bell rang, buy as much food as you could, put it on fast pace, and see how far you could go before everybody died. That's what we did on the computer before the internet. But kids today can't even fathom what the heck you would do. What would you do without the connection? Because they have always grown up in a world that's been connected. Kids get a really bad rap today for conforming to society. I hear time and time again people say, kids today are just always on their cell phones. Really, it's kids? How many of you in here have a cell phone? How many of you here today decided that you were going to, decided to leave your cell phone at home because you wanted to be here and not be connected? Anybody? 1, thank you. 2, all right, we got 2. How many of you decided that once you got here, you didn't want to have your cell phone on at all and actually physically shut it off? You do know how to shut off your cell phone, right? Like, there's a lot of people that don't. And the rest of you just put it on vibrate. Why? Why is it so important that you need to be connected? And don't try to argue with a 15-year-old girl that your life and your things are more important than hers. Because it ain't going to happen. But see, society today expects you to be connected. And we're expecting it more and more. You can't blame kids for conforming to what today is just society's rules. Because they don't know any different. They don't remember a time without cell phones. They have never had to actually call a physical place to find somebody. They've always called people, not places. That's the world they've grown up in. But yet they come to our schools and we tell them to turn off their cell phones, which they don't do. Because the connection to them is more important than anything you're going to say in class. And I think we're in a time, and I think what really has us worried right now is that we have 3 generations of technology users. And some of you might have heard this. Mark Prensky a couple years ago came out with the digital immigrants and the digital natives. Digital immigrants are those born before 1977. In other words, the wristwatchers, right? Okay? These are people that came after the revolution that is technology, that is the personal computer. They came before that. After 1977, Apple comes out, personal computers come out. That's the digital natives. These are people that have always grown up with the technology. That's my generation. Anybody here play Atari? Yeah. Nintendo, the first one? Heck yeah. Right? We had DVD players. We had VCRs. We had Walkmans. Right? We grew up in this digital native time. But I think there's 2 more generations that we need to be thinking about. The first generation I call the web generation. These are students or kids born after, somebody's got a cell phone. These are kids born after 1991 when the web as we know it today was created. The World Wide Web, these web pages, these blue underlined words, 1991. If you're born after 1991, you are a web generation. You know nothing before the web ever existed. To put that in context, our seniors in school today were born in 1992. This is the generation that's in our schools. The generation that's always been connected and always known the internet. And I believe there's a 4th generation that's just started, and that's the mobile generation. These are kids that are growing up expecting to be mobile. These are kids growing up that might never touch a desktop computer. They've always had iPhones, Blackberries, Android phones, iPads, and laptops. They've grown up in a time when laptops have always outsold desktop computers. I was talking to kindergarten teachers at break who in kindergarten, kids can't run a mouse. And why should they? They've never had to. They don't need to. They've always had a laptop that has a trackpad. They've always had an iPhone that you just touched. What's a mouse to a kindergarten kid? They're never going to use that. That's not their future. But the kids I want to talk about today is this web generation, the kids that are in our school today, that they just understand that their world is about connections, and these connections allow them to connect to ideas, content, and most importantly, connect to people. I was in a 9th grade class just last week, and we're setting up every student with a blog at our school, and in a half hour, I take them through 150 clicks to get their blog set up. They have a Google Doc, it comes in. They go to a website, they're going to set up the website, they're going to pull these books in, they're going to make it so that everything just kind of flows together. 150 clicks, 20 ninth graders, it took us 30 minutes. The teacher in the room comes up to me afterwards and said, "You lost me at step 2. But the kids were with me, and literally, I could not talk fast enough. I was talking as fast as I could, and the kids, all 20 of them, were just clicking away, and we were just zooming. And then, in the back of the room, sits the kid with his legs crossed, one hand on the laptop, and reading a book. And I go back and look over, he's actually 2 steps ahead of where I'm at. Because these kids just understand the connections that are the internet. They don't know any better. They don't know any different. It's the world they've always grown up in. In society today, I think we're starting to blur the lines. I don't think there's a time where we have a 9-to-5 job. I think the line between our social life and our work life, because of the connection, is blurring more and more every day. It's because when you're at work, you can still book a ticket for your private life. You could actually update your Facebook status at work. It's the ability to check your personal email at work. It's also the ability that your boss can call you on your cell phone at 9:30 at night. That you can check your work email at 6:30 at night. The line between our social life and our work life is becoming blurred more and more every day. And we're understanding more and more every day that physical space doesn't matter. More and more people are telecommuting to work. This is the world we need to prepare kids for. Yet in our schools, we're taking that line between social life and school life, and we're trying to create a barrier so big that no kid is going to be able to overcome it. We put in all kinds of firewalls and protect. That thing's like the Berlin Wall. Man, we even got people up there with Gatling guns just waiting for a kid. You going to check Facebook? You want to check Facebook? Right? We are trying so hard to cut kids off from what just is natural to them that I think we're doing kids a disservice. And we're not preparing them for the connected world that they are going to go into. The connected world that awaits them after school. Steve Case, in 1985, is a product manager at Pizza Hut. He gets hired for a little unknown company called Control Video. 3 years later, he becomes the CEO of this company, rebrands it as a little company you might know as America Online. In 1985, this is 6 years before the web, as we know it, is even created. And he creates this company on one premise, that communities trump content. That the community connection between people, the connection between people is more important than anything that is ever going to be created on this thing we call the internet. And if any of you remember AOL, it was all about email, chat rooms, and IM. There were no web pages, but you connected to people. But remember, the internet was supposed to make us hermits. Some of you might remember this age, right? When we were all supposed to be just huddled away in our little room, cut off from society. All of us were supposed to just crumble into nothingness, not get any sun. That's what we were afraid that the internet was going to be, and the exact opposite has happened. It has allowed us to create communities like never before. It has allowed us to connect across oceans and lands like never before. We have created communities time and time again. Just a month ago, Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, stated that we create as much content in 2 days than we did from the beginning of mankind till 2003. In 2 days, we create as much content as we did from the beginning of mankind through 2003. Every 2 days. And the key word in that sentence is we, because we're doing it in communities. It's the community that is Wikipedia. It's the communities that form in Facebook around groups that ban plastic bags at supermarkets here in Thailand. It's the communities that form around blogs. It's the communities that are wikis. It's the communities that are starting up around this new thing called Foursquare, where people are actually placing on a map where they are and creating maps of content that you couldn't have done unless you belong to that community. That's what the web is about. It has taken us 15 years to figure it out, as most of this stuff started in 2004. That's what the web is about. That's what learning is about. We know in schools that learning is social. We spend a lot of time in education creating learning communities. Yet some of the best, richest learning communities that we know today are on the web, and we cut our kids off from them. The revolution is coming. And the revolution will be here when the students figure out they can learn more in their own communities than they can sitting in a seat in a school. And it started. There's now a university called University of the People that for $25, anybody in the world can go to the university. And the university doesn't even have a professor. They've hired some of the smartest professors in the world to actually just create the outline that is a course. You come together with 25 other people, and those 25 people learn together as a community. You have 8 weeks to learn the content you need to learn using any source you can find on the web, and you take a final exam. There is no teacher. It's learning within communities, something that we know. The revolution is coming, and the revolution will be here when we finally understand that it's communities and not content that changes learning. It's the communities that we need to be building in our schools. And once we understand that, once we can grasp that it's these communities over the content that we teach, that are important, that's when the revolution will begin. Thank you.